Very good morning and warm welcome to the third day of this faculty development program on novel materials. Now I request Professor Napoleon, Dean Research, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, to introduce the speaker of the session and chair this session. Napoleon, sir, welcome.
Good morning to all of you. So I'm happy to introduce the first speaker of the session today, the 5 days online AICT technical learning program. As you know, many of you know Professor Balakumar sir. We don't need any introduction since he has been coming here and helping us for various ways, but this is a part of the program. So I'm happy to introduce Professor Balakumar to the audience. Professor S. Balakumar is currently working as a professor and director at National Center for Nanoscience and Nanotechnology, University of Madras. He is also working as a chairman for School of Nanoscience and Photonics, University of Madras, Chennai. Professor Balakumar obtained PhD in Material Science from Anna University in 1995. He worked as a postdoctoral fellow at the Chinese University of Hong Kong from 1995 to 1997. He also worked as NSPB postdoctoral fellow at National University of Singapore from 1997 to 1999. He gained research and industrial experience from A-Star Institute of Microelectronics, Singapore, and Global Foundries, Singapore. Professor Balakumar got many awards and honors. He got Senior Scientist Award, TNHC's Science City to the year 2019, and Best Researcher Award for Significant Research Publications in 2019, Best Researcher Award for Significant Research Publication 2018, IME Team Excellence Award on Nanowires Project 2018, STA Fellowship, now it is called JSPS, I think, 2001. I think he got both fellowship, STA 2001, and JSPS Fellowship 2000. Japan. He is a recipient of Fellow of Academy of Sciences, Chennai, 2016, Fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry, 2016, Associate Editor, RSC Advances, 2015, DST Full Travel Award to attend and chair MRS, 2019, IME Long Term Service Award, 2017, IEEE Senior Membership Award, 2014, and CUHK University Fellowship 1995 to 97, CSR Research Fellowship 1994, and CSR Travel Award to USA. He is a member of Royal Society of Chemistry, Singapore Material Research Society, IEEE Senior Member since 2004. Materials is Research Society USA, members in International Research Club, A-Star Singapore, as well as a life member in Material Research Society in India, and Magnetic Society of India, Indian Crystal Growth Association. Since 1993, he is an associate editor in Chemical Papers, Springer RSC Advances, RSC Publishing, Journal of Processing and Application of Ceramics, Soft Nanoscience Letter, Nanoscience and Technology Asia, etc. He has published 250 articles with 21 Best Paper Awards and 8 US patents and 6 Indian patents. He has published 3 books and 7 book chapters. He guided 12 PhD students and guiding 10 more PhD students right now. He supervised many MSc, MTech, MSc and postdoctoral students. He completed 12 projects as well as working on 5 ongoing projects. He has won many national international awards. So with this brief introduction, I invite Professor Balakumar to deliver his talk for the morning session. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Can I say I'm audible, sir?
Yes, sir. It's very clear.
Yeah. So thank you very much for the opportunity given to me to talk about novel nanobiomaterial. I also thank our Dean Napoleon for a very nice introduction. And so this topic of my lecture is novel nanobiomaterials. Generally, this talk is covering on the multifunctional materials that we have developed, what we have developed for our various hard tissue applications, ortho and dental and ophthalmology. And then this is the outline of this talk. This go this way. I'll start with motivation and in the quick review on the material and application in 3 different areas, and then based on the timing, I will further extend or I will conclude the session. And so the motivation is, I think we all know we have many people are losing their tissues, and every day are damaged every day due to many issues or many diseases or accidents. So loss of tissue and their function, its functionality is a major issue. It leads to poor quality of life and also leads to death. So there are many research is on to develop the material for tissue restoration or tissue repair or tissue replacement or regenerate. So that's why the major focus in the tissue engineering is always with the 3R: regenerate, repair, and replace the tissues. So there are many, different types of the tissues, but broadly you can classify hard and soft tissues. And here in this lecture, we focus on the replacement of, the materials for hard tissue replacement, regeneration, and then therapy. So, but when we talk about this topic here, it is basically on materials approach. So, what kind of a material develop and how you can modify, and what is an innovative material that you can go on. So, but in addition, these materials also used for drug delivery or to clear the infection, and also used for diagnostics such as bioimaging and the therapies such as cancer therapies in hard and soft tissues and many parts of the body, but which is not covered in this lecture. So our primary research interest is a materials approach. It's basically to the materials introduced in this, for this application have quite a lot of challenges, and we worked in some of the material, and also we enhanced the property of the material by modification or by structure modification by making composites, and that generally we are increasing the functionality of the material. It can be of a multifunctional. So that we all know that when you talk about functional material, the materials are, and some of them are inert, some of them are there changes the nature or changes the property with the external stimuli, which is called as a functional material. The functional material, if that's more than one function, it can be multifunctional. But with respect to that, here it can support the system. The same material can deliver the drug. The same material act as an antibacterial agent, or they can also do an additional function. So that is our primary interest, is to focus on on the material, the 2 different materials which are very relevant to hard tissues. So, but such materials, even when you talk about functional material, since it is a workshop, I also would like to give some basics. So the materials, there are many different types of functional material. It is used for applications such as energy conversion, phase change materials, as well as shape memory and thermoelectrical application and mechatronics and the energy in general. And then here you can look at these materials. These biomedical materials are also comes under this functional material category. And some of them, we are using in a hard material. In metallurgy side also we use very hard material for dental wires and stents and micro pumps. And these are others. In addition to that, your hard tissue and soft tissue materials also comes under this category. So we are talking about materials which are used for biomedical applications. So when we talk about a biomaterial, you look at this skeletal system, you can use it for bone fixation, it is ligament tearing, and in the knee surgery, and then hip surgery, and the spine, and the heart valves, and degradable structures, and as well as our many joints, and then dental doors and maxillofacial reconstructions, and then air and ocular laser, corneal lenses, where we potentially use the material, and also these materials support the system, and also it support the function. And right now it is in an innovative way they are regenerating or introducing the materials, right? So, but it has a very very good. It was very good. So it started, it's 2000 years before, which is not new. But but the present, the last century, it has taken different view. So when what is the definition of a material, biomaterial? So the biomaterial, any synthetic or any substance or any drug of synthetic or natural origin, that can be used for any period of life or a part of a system, and that increase or replace any tissue, organ, function of the body, which are called as, generally we call it as biomaterial. But in 1990, there is another view that is a non-living material used in medical device and designed to interact with the biological system, also called as biomaterial. There are many different definitions. So, but we can also take a close look on that. But you know that when you talk about these material and replacement, you know, heart tissue replacement, we have to look at our, you know, our Indian mythology. It is a tissue engineering is not new. We have a lot of references from very long before. When Hindu mythology, even in other cultures, we have. So we all know Vinayaka, which with elephant head, and also Narasimha with, you know, its lion head, and then other these statues. So, but all are, you know, we closely look into it. It is not, we cannot directly relate it, but in a way they are also, and they are also, you know, the people in mind, they had something in the transplantation, implantation, and then, you know, how we can establish, you know, the link between them and what kind. So that is up there. It is not only in our Hindu, it is also in the Muslim, and you can see the white animal, a half donkey with the wings of sides and the women head. So we also the similar thing in Hindu, which is called Kamadhenu, but this is an al-Burak, it is in Islam. So the people say it was there. Then another one is Chimera, is that the lion, which also we call it as Yali in this one, the head of a coat, and, you know, arising from back, and the tail that enter in the snake head. So there are many kind of you know, these kind of were there. It is also another one in Christian, a dragon with a lion head. You know, there are different. But it's basically to, you know, you can see, you know, how they are to enhance the functionality or, you know, potential. So these kind of ideas were there. So it is also, we cannot directly that, and, you know, people had an idea when you draw this, or when you, so these kind of multifunctional animals there. Then if you closely look at the modern day chimera, is, you know, this was in 1997. Actually, one of the scientists, they grown there, you know, they put an additional, I mean, air with the and implanted on the mice, and then with the cells they are trying to increase they want to see, you know, how it grows. So this is one of the well-known demonstrated, it's available in Google. And similarly, there was a very recent one, you can see that, you know, this person lost his nose in accident. In order to, you know, to have a, you know, it is only cosmetic surgery. They created a scaffold, and then they grown the cells, and they attach the gear and make it functional, then attach it. But of course it cannot give this sensing and all. It's only, you know, it is a cosmetic surgery. Similarly, there are Kiran Kumar, you can put your microphone off. We have a distance. Yeah, similarly, there are many examples in order to increase the functionality, or they have grown even many parts. In the Second World War, even they have grown many you know, year, and then for the military they have replaced some of their parts of the body. So they already, it is well demonstrated. Such when you talk about Kiran Kumar, can you put your microphone off? Quite a lot of disturbance. And then, so that when you talk about tissue replacement or repair, and also the regeneration, we have to establish the interface. So that is what it is. There we have a real problem. Whatever the material they talk about, metal and ceramic, synthetic polymer, natural polymer, and we have to, you know, integrate the cells, and then and many different cells that are existing near to that particular tissue, and we have to establish the signaling. That is the key part. That is the challenge, and it is very difficult to, you know, it is reproduce. You know, that is the one, the growth factor, drugs, and what is the ratio, what are the mechanical forces. So these are the real challenges, even in the 3D structure that we are facing now. So that is why the more focus is on the ideal intracellular matrix. There is a material. How do you do it, and what kind of a material? what kind of biocompatibility, degradability, and natural healing, accessibility, and then obviously commercial feasibility. That is also we will have to look at this material. So this is how we have to understand the tissue engineering and the ideal cellular matrix. Right. So the material, there are, when you talk about, again, coming back to the generation of the biomaterial, in 1980 and 80, we said, no, it become passive and to active, but it can be classified, based on the, application. The first generation of the material, they do not trigger any reaction in the host. It is neither rejected nor recognized. Sometimes it is give a lot of problem, but it does not. They do not bring any good result. That is the first generation that they started with. And the latter, the second generation, in order to establish the interface between the biomaterial that you are using with the body and to avoid the infections, they used a certain material to coat on that, which is ensure a more stable performance in a long time or a period that you want. They put a material as a coating material. That is why that will establish the interface between the material and the tissue. So that material we call it as bioactive. Whereas if the whatever the material that you are using, it is a degrade or convert into it can it's a natural tissue, then we say that this materials degrade completely and it is converted. So it can be chemically degraded or decayed by the natural effects that is inside the body. That is what I have shown here. Yeah, there are many different types, as we know, that metal, polymers, bioceramics, and then composites. So metals, basically they will not bring very good results. Only they can, but heavily used. They support the system. But we have quite a lot of challenges in the corrosion and compatibility and the diffusion of metal ions and infections. That is why whatever the material that you are using in the body is a stainless steel or in alumina, there is a lifetime. And again, there is another issue. Even if you are using a very strong material, our body will change with the time. Our body's shape will change with the time. So the materials will not be cannot accommodate with the body. There you create a lot of loosening and infections and then issues. So whereas polymer is another way around. They are flexible, but mechanical strength is very weak. So that is why, again, these two materials you cannot use it for degrade or replace or repair, but they can support the system. So there you require a ceramics. The ceramics should be very close to your material in your body. So biocompatible, and also it is it's a compression and corrosion resistance should be there. And you have to engineer the fractional strength and then density and brittle. So similarly, then if you look at the, when you look at these directions, so there you have to look at the, how you can take the advantage of metal, polymer, or bioceramics. So there they can talk about the engineering of the material, or generally we can say that you can make a compound, or you can make a alla, you can make mixer, you can make composite. But the first three cannot be used because we have quite a lot of chemical issues. So composite is the one which take the complementary effect of the material and polymer or whatever the other metal oxide that you have used, which you can enhance the properties. Elastic modulus you can use, corrosion problem you can solve it. This material can be degradable and durability can be improved. That is why the composite is taking a lot of role in the tissue engineering, and as well as since the material, the properties of the material changes with the dimension. So the role of nano is more in that. That is starting from your, the common application concrete or your calcium phosphate material. Now their engineering is started in a vigorously. So that's how we are improving the material, and we are looking for, using the material for application using 3D innovative structures. And then even if you look at the such generation of material with the period, so initially that metal and alloys are used in 1950 to 1970. 1970 to 1990, they used ceramic and bioresorbable and bioactive material. And then from 2000 only, these nano composites in place, it's a bioresorbable or bioactive. So now the real tissue engineering started, and we are fabricating your parts of the body or hard tissues. So that is, we call it as tissue engineering or innovative material. But whatever that is, you have to look at the selection criteria of the material to look into that. One is biocomposite and appetite, and then mechanical property, and then mineralization capability. The mineralization capability is the one in the given body fluid, the material should convert into the another form. So we can look into that, what is another form here, and then what is the commercial possibility of this material. These are the some of the 4 aspects that you look at it for all the material, but here it is given for bioglass, that I taken from one of the publication of the bioglass. So such material, when you want to develop such material, when we say these materials are multifunctional, and then the material, whatever you are making in a nano form, and then you are taking this material into bulk form, that we call it as bulk nano material. So the bulk nano material, which is the one which is connecting the world of nano with your heart, your nano, to the micro world, is one of the very long-standing effort in not only in nanotechnology, in the application side, the tissue engineering, or well as 3D printing and other applications. So, but it still remains a very big challenge, as it requires quite a lot of understanding and the material preparation and properties. Two, when you want to develop this kind of a product, definitely we should have a control and the function of them on this material, because a level of understanding and the role of the size and the shape, architecture, composition, and their nanostructuring need to be systematically studied in each and every scale, nanoscale materials. So that should be, that should be established for all these materials. So that is the main primary research aspect when people work for a biomaterials. So that material, the biomaterial, what we are talking about is, we can also, there is another way we can look at this called biofunctional material. The biofunctional materials are, the material that have a biofunctionality. So we can look at and we can narrow down or talk to that topic, which is, we can use that where we can use this biomaterial better exactly. So for example, here I have given 3 different material which are calcium phosphate derivative. It may be a triglycine phosphate derivatives or hydroxyapatite and bioactive glasses. These are the material used for various application in nano and bulk form. The first one they use is an implantable material. This material composites can fabricate, and it can be used as an implant material for bone and for the filler application. And then it is also can be used for stem cell therapy, and also it can be when you make a nano pattern one, the surface proliferation of your attachment, absorption and proliferation, and that can be enhanced. So, and in addition, whatever the bulk material that you have, even metal using in your body, as I mentioned, the bioactive coatings that can be these kind of materials coated on this one, that can establish the interaction between the connection between your material and your tissue, so that compatibility can be. So for that, the material, it should be an antifungal one, antibacterial one, and I have improved the protein absorption should be good, and there should be a degradability, should be conversion. In addition, these materials also can be used for diagnostic and therapy. Diagnostic purposes, for example, it can be used, even these kind of calcium phosphate material can be, if you put a right material along with that, it can also used for bioimaging. For example, you can use it for MRI imaging. Exclusively can be used for osteosarcoma, and it is also simultaneously can be used for hyperthermia treatment, and as well as it is also can be used for delivering a growth factor and gene therapy and drug delivery. There are quite a lot of applications are there. These and that materials are called as biofunctional material, and this is one of the perspective that you can look into it. But that materials, whatever your material that you are using, that is not new to your body. Your body has a lot of elements in that. For example, you can look at the right side picture, you can see what kind of different gases and what is the percentage. And as well as you can look at many different material, even all the metals you have, iron, calcium, potassium, it's not almost whatever the element in the periodic table, it is It's all there. It is there. Even with the race for certain functionalities. So when you choose a material or when you incorporate, some dopant or substitution, you make sure that you are not using, excess materials, or maybe it is then you have to, when you even excess that, you have to see whether it is how it will be released in your body, how you are taking the control. So that is and all will give you the biocompatibility and bioactivity of the body. That should be taken care. So that is what another aspect, another important factor that you have to take care, right? So see, now let us narrow down to the two heart tissues in our body. One is bone and the teeth. We have to understand that these two are heart tissue in body. Both of them is composite. It is not a single material. It is a composite. If you look at it carefully, both of them made by hydrocalcium phosphate derivative, plus one is with collagen, another one is with another organic form. We can also look at it. But even if you look at from macro to nano scale, you can look at the fibril structure, collagen fibrils, and it has two different one is a collagen fibril, another one is bioapatite. Bioapatite nothing but as a calcium phosphate derivative. It is hydroxyapatite. It is there in the form of nanocrystal into 30-50 nanometer, and if you look at that, carefully, this is basically a chemical composite. That is, we have a chemical interaction. Similarly, the teeth is also have a same composite, but it is a beautiful structure. It has many different parts. However, this is also made up of nanomaterial. So, but if you look at the composition of that material, exactly, composition of the bone is 60% inorganic, and then it is basically in hydroxyapatite, 25% collagen. That is a collagen type 1, and 15% water. This is the composition of the bone. Now, whenever you want to engineer your artificial bone, or you make a power, so you have to make sure that you have to make a material in such a way that the final composition should be matches with this composition. Similarly, as I mentioned, the tooth is a beautiful structure, and you have a coil. It has a calcium phosphate ratio, and your organic component is the ratios are there is a gradient starting from your dentin, enamel, and pedial membrane, and as well gingiva, and then pulp, and the cementum, alveolar bone formation. Everywhere you have a but there is a gradient, and the structure is beautiful. And but in which if you look at the enamel structure, 90% it is a hat, 10% is only organic component. So, but the variation, we have to take care of the variation. So we cannot simply make a pellet and just insert it. So now that's why people are working in the 3D printing. They are functionally graded materials, or they are growing to regenerate some of the heart tissue inside the teeth. So that is the one. Second thing, see, there are when we start this with you, I'm closely look at what is going on. But there are that is basically when you look at the revision of surgery after implantation. They have looked at it. The revision of surgery is not only due to the aging. It is also due to the aging. Another factor is your osteoporosis in the bone, and then hospitalization, and then other emergency unit and the visit of doctor's office. So they are look at the statistic. The statistic, you look at it, it gives a number of hertz that is given for the osteoporosis. Similarly, in the dentistry, the major one of the fifth prevalent disease is dental caries. The dental caries is damage. It is a very big issue for the kids as well as for the our old people, and also that is mostly because of the water and then chemical content and air quality, everything. If you look at it here, this is an old one, but it is still there. The Chennai, if you look at the statistics, Chennai and Hyderabad are bad because of your it is the water quality that you are using for teeth. You are brushing, everything, it matters here. So these are the major challenges that we have. But in our lab, we focused on this. We worked on a different type of a biomaterial. One of the biomaterial what we have taken is an hydroxyapatite. Hydroxyapatite, we all know there the calcium phosphate ratio is fixed and a highly crystalline material, and the release of calcium from phosphate from this, when you use this synthetic material, you know, the release have a very tight control. It is not so the, since the release of the calcium and phosphate, the ion that you incorporate in hydroxyapatite is very slow, then the growth of that, you know, conversion or the growth or the regeneration will take very long time. So that is the, and again the mechanical properties and another issue which you has, there is an issue. Then there is another version of the KM calcium phosphate, which is bioactive glasses, which is a silica 50%, or maybe you can vary the silica, where you can, you know, put in calcium phosphate and calcium oxide, phosphorus pentoxide, strontium oxide, whatever the element you can add it. So bioactive glass is basically a silica network in which you can add the metal ions or metal oxides. It will form a different compounds. The compound or it is embedded in a network. It may be sometimes it may form a composite. So that composites are, anyway, it's a versatile material. Versatile material, we can discuss it. Then in order to enhance the mechanical property, we can use many different material. We also tried many different, but graphene is an ultimate material. This combination can be used for implant coating and even water pipes. It can be used. It can be used for diabetic wound healing. There are quite a lot of applications. This is our current focus of our research. So next one, we can look into the hydroxyapatite is a naturally occurring calcium phosphate, and 69% of our bone has an hydroxyapatite. It is an exit. There are different forms. For example, you know, when the dentistry they are you know, they are asked you to increase the fluorine based. For example, you are a fluoride based fluoride based or chloride based paste that we are using, which obviously they will result in producing a fluoroapatite and chloroapatite on top of your teeth. That will actually protect the enamel. That will not replace the enamel. That is because if you lose your enamel, it is an irreparable or irreversible process. So, but you can grow a potable. So, but when you make this material in nano form, it certainly provides the osteoblast adhesion and then subsequent differentiation and proliferation and osseointegration. So that is under that. But however, clinically it has an hindrance due to the mechanical strength. So that is one. It is a one, but you can use it for a different application by integrating with the other material. To enhance the property of the material, we have done quite a lot of work. But before that, I also looked what is that material commercially available? Yes, calcium phosphate in a gel form we are using currently. When these are material available in even Chennai, you can see for ortho doctors, they prescribe all these one to enhance the calcium content or gel to, you know, for healing, and they are using it. But they are in many of them in micro form, and there are even nano form. It is exist. The UCAR is a company, local company. They are producing many of this product, and where they are using is, and as we discussed, they are using for coating and then knee replacement, hip replacement, and then scaffolds are being fabricated, and they have quite a lot of challenges. But what we have done in our lab is to enhance the mechanical property. We have used an alumina, we incorporated with the hydroxyapatite, we fabricated the composite. Similarly, we incorporate the graphene, but you know, we have to make sure that they have a chemically interacted. They form a very strong chemical bonding, and the ratio of them, and then, you know, the size of the material and the morphology of the individual materials are playing the key role. But however, the mechanical properties are significantly enhanced with this composition. But however, biocompatibility, resorbability, and degradation behavior need to be systematically evaluated for depend upon our requirement. So again, so osteoblast activity is not good for HAP, and that's the reason. So, but iron is one of the well-known material which can enhance osteoblast activity, and the same material can be used for hyperthermia treatment, osteosarcoma treatment, and for imaging in MRI. So that is also we have developed this material, and has been some of the scaffolds. These are the scaffolds that we have developed with the polymer, which can be used for bone regeneration. So that has been evaluated. Similarly, we also recently developed a bone substitutes by incorporating sulfur, because sulfur has a quite lot of advantages. And in addition, we also integrate graphene. But this is the initial work what we have done, but it has a limitation. Limitation is an again mechanical property. So that's the reason we focused on the nano composite, which is going on. But I just in the next talk, in the half an hour, I wish to half an hour to next to I focus on another material, which is bioactive glass. It's a miracle material which was invented by Larry Hench. Larry Hench he invented this material during the Second World War to support the patients in the military. So that he systematically studied later, and is and he used to he developed many material. One of the material that he developed is a 45% silica, in which you can see the composition of sodium oxide, calcium oxide, phosphorus oxide. This material is 100 times better than hydroxyapatite, because this when you convert this material bioglass into hydroxycarbonate layer, because normally whatever the material that you are using, it will be converted into natural form, another form in your body fluid. That is so called HCl layer. That HCl layer conversion, it will take in several hours, whereas hydroxyapatite, it will take more than 30 to 45 days it will start. So because the release of ion is very less. The release of ion is very fast, because you have everything in the silicate network. It can be easily dissolved. But again, the phase formation that are depend upon the composition and process condition. That is what I want to demonstrate here, how the process conditions are and the precursors are important when you use this material in wet chemical method. The another material which they have developed is an osteoconductive. This one only bond to the soft tissues, whereas the other one, class A, they will bond with the soft tissue as well as the bone, hard tissue. So, but it is again, the HCl layer will take different form, because silica content is very high here. So, but later they have developed many material with different deliver content, and also widened the scope of the material, starting from hard tissue and soft tissue, diabetic wound healing materials, and then and many other applications. So that is the one, and this is the calcium phosphate is can be highly used for not only for just we cannot say it is a enamel. This can be used for capping. It can protection layer, antibacterial coating, implant coating, pulp tenting, structure regeneration, 3D printing, osteosarcoma, and other bone grafts applications. So these materials also, it is not new to the industry. That is already exists in a different form. It is a scaffold there, mesoporous scaffold there, injectable transparent liquid is there, and bone fillers are there. And the science of the material is not well understood, because most of the the trading the companies are the developing. It is most and the basic structure of the material is not well discussed or disclosed. So that's the reason why people are putting still more effort to make this material in a different form, with a different structure, and reduce the cost of the fabrication. And there are many aspects that one can work on. And we are not metallurgists, we are not biologists. We are sitting in this as a material scientist. We work on the different aspect of the material. So when we work on the material, we will more focus on the role of nano, and then how it can, when even the material nano, when you put it by macro form, how it will be there. So these are the aspects one has to look at very carefully when you study a material for biomedical application. This miracle material, the beauty of the material, it is not only used for dentistry, this also can be used for ortho, it can be used for ophthalmology, corneal tissue membrane, drug delivery, and scaffolds, and it can be used for cancer therapy, hyperthermia, bone, and many different type of cancer, diabetic wound healing. So that this regenerative material has a well versatile. Only thing is you have to incorporate the right ion, use the right method to synthesize, and then you convert them in a different form and depend on your requirement. That is the challenge. That is the open problem. Anybody can come step in and work on. So such an wonderful material. I think these are some of the commercially available one. It is to introduce further. This already exists in your Sensodyne paste. That is why the Sensodyne paste it will protect your enamel, it will grow a layer on, so it will then that is a sensitive hypersensitivity, I mean sensitivity will be controlled. This is one of the material that is used for this one. So what we have done is, first we had to why this is a very simple slide for a student purpose. Why nano here is nano material, as we all know, when you reduce the maize to nano form, you are increasing the surface area, you are increasing the roughness of the material, you are controlling the surface of the particle, which enhances the cell adhesion and the specificity. That certainly proliferate the cells, and then differentiation is very high. That leads to this material more reactive, and it is a conversion is very high, biocompatible, and osteoclast region the adhesion is 24% is higher, and stimulate the surface topography of physiological bone. So that has an advantage. Why the role of nanomaterial. In our lab, we have used a very simple approach, starting from salt gel and the precipitation or hydrothermal, and using different process condition or precursors. Our idea always, whatever the material that we take, we look at that material as an one chemistry. Can we make an different shape and architecture, see the property changes in the material? So these are the sum of the morphologies that we developed past 10 years, past 7 years, starting from spherical and matte and flakes and partial and many, because we just hexagonal platelets and beautiful rods, and each one has a different characteristics in nanoform and in bulk nanomaterial. They have a beautiful properties, changes, significance. So accordingly, you can use this one. So here I just show you the effect of an annealing, because why the annealing is important is annealing is the next step. Once you use a precursor, you make a gel powder, that the nucleation and subsequent growth in the particular direction is decided by the thermal condition that you have given. But what is the temperature that you have given can be decided by from the thermogravity analysis. If the weight loss, you look at the major weight loss or the maximum weight loss, and you take the temperature and then just plus or minus 100 degree, or you can then even the heating rate and then cooling rate, it also makes the material interesting. So what we have done is we have done some design of a DOE, design of experiment with the different process condition. I have shown only the salient features of our work. We managed to take it's a spherical particle, and then we modify the process condition. It can be rods, and it can also be, you can get a thick rods. So this can be bar-shaped material. So they have given it a different material, different shape. And when we look at this material, though the crystallization is different, it is in generally there is a structure called combite structure of this one. But combite structure or enatite structure or clinophosphate. So there are many different phases that will form. But the ratio of that structure decides the functionality of the material. Depend upon your annealing temperature, the ratios, and then crystalline nature, that changes the structure of the material. That in turn affect the biocompatibility. Here I have shown the hemolysis. This is with the donor's blood that we have done the bio studies with the appropriate approvals. Then we can see that you can make a hemocompatibility assay. This is one of the very key study to qualify the material. We found that hemolysis should be less than 0.3. But this material, whatever the temperature, hemolysis is less. Hemolysis is less, well below that level. But if you look at it, the material grown at a lower temperature, because the surface area is very low. Is less, and there hemolysis, that is lysis is less, but increase that your changes the morphology, the anisotropicity increase. When anisotropicity increase, the surface energy increase, interaction with the platelets increase, that in turn increase the lysis. So okay, if the lysis is good or bad, if the lysis is very high in a material, the material can be used for clotting purpose. If the lysis is very low, that can be used for all your tissue applications. So depend upon the property that it can be used. So similarly, we look at the mineralization. Mineralization is good for the low material because when the size is very low and that phase area is very high, but the size is high, there the anisotropy is play the major role. So these are some of the things that we have recently published. And then similarly, we look at the step annealing. It is, annealing is also there, but the step annealing can be used, it is that the strategy we have developed sometimes it is difficult. We develop a proper step annealing process. It is possible to get a required morphology or increase the surface energy. So here we applied certain process condition by changing the, keep it for some time in one condition and increase for another, and you change the timing for another condition, so that you can enhance the growth. You can enhance the growth, promote the growth in particular direction. That is lead to a beautiful platelets. And so this one we demonstrated. Similarly, we also showed the lysis. The lysis is very high for a certain material. That material, if the lysis is high, because it is a percentage wise very high, that's why that we have used material for blood clotting, because blood clotting is one of the application where wherever you have is when you remove your teeth, there is a the cavity will fill with a lot of blood. Immediately they are using a clotting agent. So this material, if the lysis is good, it can be used for clotting agent. So that is what we have used. That optical density of these, they are also measured. It's very high for certain material. So morphology of the material and the size of the material all depend upon the thermal condition also playing the major role. One. Second thing is not only thermal condition, what is the additional process that you are using? Even annealing can be normal conventional annealing, or you can do fast annealing. This is not only in this material, any materials that you are working in your lab. It can be for thermoelectric or for solar energy. For this one, you use these kind of strategies. You can, the science of it can be, the output will be good and you can analyze more. So what we have done is we have used microwave that changes the morphology. We have used probe sonication that reduces the morphology. Combining these two, that enhances that changes you taken an advantage of that one, that enhances certain properties, but well, there'll be a trade-off. The trade-off is depend how you do it. So it is not only even your hemolysis, ALT activity is also different. When you look at carefully, your conventionally your surface area is very low, microwave surface, because you control the particle size, increases probe sonication, obviously then increase the surface area. That in turn also you look at the pore diameter and pore also changes. So that is an advantage. It has been used for different purpose. Now that has been recently published in biomedical research in applied materials. And then later we also, whenever we work on any wet chemical process, the precursors are key, because the precursor and then how the byproduct change your pHs, that how it affects this one, that is also need to understand. So this is basically a material, when you work on materials approach, research on the material condition and process that you use, to process condition that you use, you have to evaluate it with the proper design of experiment. So we look at two different aspects, because sodium is one of the material which playing the major role in bioglass, because if you increase the sodium, that you have quite a lot of negative effect. So, and that the sodium bonding, that means subsequent, for example, if you look at the X-ray picture, you have 3 different places. Sodium playing the major role here, sodium content playing the major role here. So the role of the sodium precursor also playing the key role. We used to sodium, 2 different sodium. The phase formation ratio is different. Sodium hydroxide and sodium. That is also intent. The chemical bondings are different. The morphology of the particles are different. The size distribution is drastically shifted from 70 to 400. So that shows that how a particle, you are just a precursor. You are not changing anything. You are only changing the precursor ratio that it affects. So there is an XPS, the chemical bonding between the 2 different phases, that is also changing. That in turn, after changing completely change the property of that one. That one recently, this work is accepted in Journal of Material Science Engineering. So similarly, this is a one again. That we also look at the mineralization, how it is affected. The mineralization is good part when you use a sodium nitrate, sodium hydride, because if you look at it, These within a 24 hours mineralization start, it is 50% completed. With a 7 day, it can completely it is this bioglass converted into HCl layer that concentrate. And the main the ultimate goal is that as we all know, our calcium phosphate ratio in the bone is maintained. It is 1.67. That ratio should be maintained. Hydroxyapatite, the first material that we have discussed, which has an ratio of 1.67. But whatever the material you develop, you look at the concentration of the calcium phosphate ratio in your initial material and the final product. But you need you required a right facility to do that. It is not easy. You need to have an ICP facility, induction coupled plasma, to analyze the composition. So that you have to look into that we have analyzed here. For example, after the mineralization with the timing, after 7 days, you can look at it. The calcium phosphate is very close to your natural bone. So that is possible to happen. Now, we can take this material and the sodium nitrate material, you can integrate, we can make a proper composite with organic material that can be used for scaffold application. Similarly, your nitrate bond, the blood clotting is good for certain ranges. So these are the basic studies on this material. And also I showed, apart from that, as I said, silica is the major component in bioactive glass. We have taken 45% silica and 53% silica and 72% silica and 80% silica. Then we can see where is what are the different phases informed, whether it is a crystallite, whether it is a combate structure or any other form, renatite, or it is a silicohyaronite. There are many different and the ratio that we established, and this work is an unpublished work, and we will be publishing soon in ACS Biomaterials. So this one, it is also giving a quite lot of window for us to work on next 10 years on this material. So that is one. So now carefully, next 10 minutes, we look at where we can use this bioglass in the industry. So before we go into the industry, I just would like to again to emphasize the composition in the each layer. For example, crown is the enamel of the tooth, right? And the enamel is the hardest substance in the body, which has 90% inorganic, that is calcium phosphate. Next one is dentin. It is largely collagen fibril, and we have it's a nanocrystalline apatite layer is there. Third one is cementum. Cementum means that covers the root surface of the tooth. Here, if you look at it, the root surface of the tooth, and fibrilled bone-like substance right there. And pulp is a vital tissue, the vital tissue of the tooth, where it can supply the blood to all your entire teeth, and it can also, it has a blood vessels and the connecting. It is very difficult to regenerate this part. It's not so easy, and we think so. It is an have a pulp chamber, pulp cannot. There are many. See, that's such a beautiful. It is a very good product. The scientist, the nature, the creator created one. So that is what it is very difficult to understand the functionality of this particular structure. But one of the major issue is a dental caries, which is a chronic oral disease, and even a separate we used to get a separate call for this area. And bacterial cause the damage enamel and the substitution, and then so the apatite layer formation, you have to make it fast and very strong. So, but it was found that the strontium containing material has a positive effect to the tissue repair. So dentist is found to be the lower in the areas where high strontium level in the drinking water. So drinking water is the key for your health, that we all know, but it is one of the important factor for our dentistry and the base of dental care. So that is one. In addition, it is not only that they are developing the material for pulp capping. It is and then dentin tubule occultation and then root filling. So these are the areas where we focus. So one of the material we developed 2 years before is that we have taken a bioglass and we have removed the calcium. We incorporated strontium to enhance the functionality of the material, and we developed the material, and then we worked with the Ramachandra Medical Hospital. Then they have given a donor's teeth, and then we polished the teeth. We opened all the dentin tubules that is gone here, and then we have taken the bioglass, we make in a paste form, and then they brushed every 3 minutes every day. Within a week, how we want to see how it is, and this your tentin, tubules are closed. This is called tubule occlusion capacity. That is percentage in OCG with the 5% and 10%. We show that the 10% and the 5%, 10% range is good, and it can completely closes, and it also, in fact, I mean, it is an antibacterial antibacterial material. It enhances antibacterial property and completely removed the infection in the tentin. So, and it will stop the bacterial accumulation. It completely closed. It's a grown a layer on top of that layer on top of your where your enamel is removed. You look at these are the places where it has grown. A layer is grown. So that is that lead to another work what we have done, that is published in Journal of Biomaterial Science and RSC. Then we also look at, can we use this material for other application, for example gel, and can be used for for hemostat and other tissue engineering, that we have come work. And we also combine the same by this material with the alginate. So when you take an alginate, we cannot simply mix it. The mixing ratio and the cross-linking agent that are key, and the ratio and the temperature process condition. But our idea is to get a thin film of it. That means thin lamp where you can roll it and you can put it in PDL membrane. So that is what the idea. So we have done this work, and we fabricated the membrane with a freeze drying approach. It is a lyophilizer. And this is very simple. Then we also did all the basic, including the cell proliferation with the help of our with our DPT. So the cell proliferation, co-culture, and the spheroid formation are completely established. So that one also recently published in this year Journal of Biomaterial Science. Then we move to an application. In the dentistry, we have when you remove your teeth, we know that there will be a cavity formed. Before you can, make a make an artificial tooth or maybe replacement, you know that there will be a blood will be completely free with this. With the time, that is the structure will be completely remodeled. That is why when you remove your tooth, why your face changes because of the structural changes in your test. So that is very important. So when you want to, for example, if you have a material, you develop a material and then you just insert it here. When you insert, for example, once you have a cavity here, then normally there will be blood will be completely filled within 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Then if you put a material here, you put a cap here, normally they'll put some cotton-like material, they will block the blood and they ask you to bite. But if you put if you develop a material which is act as a hemostat, this one which will clot the blood as well as it will preserve the structure. So that is our idea, which is recently filed a patent. This is a joint work with the SRM Dental Hospital. We have developed a material, and we have developed beads and also scaffold, and also they have made all kind of even because we have to understand that our tooth size and tooth shapes are different. So there are you can simply group it into 6-7 groups that you can make. We made these and preliminary studies, and even we made this product. So this can be we have fabricated this one. Recently we got a good funding from BIRAC to jointly we got good funding to continue this work. So this is one of the product that we have developed. So in addition, we worked with, again, we have taken the material also for filling and remineralization. So when you talk about remineralization, as you have seen many advertisements that, whether you have your toothpaste has a fluorine or not, there is a fluorine doped. That is none other than your Sensodyne paste. It's a sensitivity. So we want to develop this material because there is no literature, no proper data available. We have developed a fluorine doped bioglass with a different percentage. We have developed this material. We look at the crystallization and the mineralization aspect. Also, we look at the mechanical property. Whether it is increasing? Yeah, 10% fluoride is enhance the mechanical property of this layer that you have grown, and hardness is significantly enhanced. That makes this material comfortable to can be used. Extent can use. Then we work with the doctors. The doctors take the donor's blood and then they cut a teeth and take a portion of it. Then they attach the bioglass with that to evaluate. Attach the pellet and then this is a pellet and attached with that. Then they look at, what is happening in the interface. This is the initial interface, and then you control, and then you can PG treated one. You can look at the bioglass one. You can see that this is the layer growth. You can look at the ununiform one. That means mineralization started, and we closely look at the under electron microscopy how these are tentin surface with a different percentage. You can see the remineralization is very fast. That means HCl layer growth is very fast and taken is completely closed. And similarly, then another area also it should show the boundaries. So this shows that remineralization of the material is enhanced while introduced the calcium fluoride in any material, any hydroxyapatite or bioactive material. So that is also not only we looked into that, we also looked at the antibacterial activity and drug release kinetics of the certain drugs. That is also we have taken 2 different drugs and we have studied the drug release level that is also enhanced. So this material can be of this is another material. The same it is again here is a calcium fluoride and this is a copper bioglass. This copper bioglass again it is used for mineralization and then even drug release studies, and its absorption is very good. Then we can say that because based on the literature, this material can be used for filling application. But when used for filling application, you have to be very careful on what kind of a copper percentage that you are using and what is the calcium phosphate ratio after some time, because that is the one to decide the sealant interfaces. Sealant interface should have the same calcium phosphate ratio as the teeth. So here 2.5% of copper, we demonstrated that we are able to go it is because calcium phosphate ratio in the natural teeth is 1.67. We close to the 1.6 side. So that is an acceptable value. This we recently accepted in material science engineering C, which is impact factor more than 6. So that is one of the material, and we also in the hospital they have helped us to find out the filling efficiency. Our students they have take our teeth and then they process it, and they want to see the your dye penetration inside. That we have closely looked at, we optimized it. We also work with the doctor. The filling efficiency is good, and some places interface is not good. That we have established it. Now we also look at the porosity control. The dye degradation is half. It is better than commercially available material that we have developed. Is now we are taking this material to ICMR for funding to develop a proper sealant materials. So that is one of the work one. The third one, what we have done is an nano membrane for periodontal tissue regeneration. So when you talk about membrane, it is a 2-dimensional material. 2-dimensional material that should be in the flexible one. So the thickness, the ratio, and the composition and the flexibility need to be optimized. So PDL is one of the any tissue, the critical tissues. That is, in order to prevent the downgrowth of an epithelium along the tooth root surfaces, a membrane should be processed. That is why it is properly applied and processed. This is called as guided tissue regeneration. That is called the GTR. So GTR can be, which you have a it is not only a simple scaffold. Cell proliferation should be good. Signaling should be good. That's why it also taken care of the environmental factors, mechanical set that you are using to eat your food and infection. So these to be taken care. So that is the one. So but anyway, we have developed this material with developed bioglass, and we take a alginate and the gelatin. We made a membrane. That membrane is right now even we made it is a around 1 micron thick membrane. It is a very thick. This is our MSc student project, and then they also made a beads. In addition, the hydrogel beads that can be used as a filling material. So they have also systematically evaluated the properties, and we have shown that it is a hemocompatible, and the swelling ratio is very good, and the degradation is very fast with certain ratios. So it is also possible to control the degradation ratio. If it is 3%, the control is good. 3% of gelatin. That we have optimized it, and the cell viability we have studies. The cell viability, of course, bioglass will be very good, but when the gelatin plays a major role, so then we can play around. The play around, we found that in a 1.1 ratio you can enhance it. This is the ratio that we have chosen, and we are working with the doctors to evaluate with an animal rats. That work is actually we are working with the national facility established in SRM Katankratur. This work is under progress now. So another next 20 to 20 minutes, we can use it for how we can use this material for orthopedic. So next is when you talk about orthopedic, we have to look at the structure. The most of the structure are bio-inspired structure bone. So we all know this is the bone structure, and which has an when you narrow down this from macro to nano, if you look at carefully, as we discussed earlier, which will have a hydroxyapatite crystal in the collagen fiber. Collagen is you can look at the structure of the collagen, and then this is they combine, they make a composite. But this is a bone. But a similar structure and a similar one of the material is the one of the
the phone on the
plant has a certain structure, which is one of the plant has a very close structure, which is none other than bamboo. Bamboo is made up of completely a cellulose, but whereas it doesn't have any hydroxyapatite or HCl layer, but that is why it is a fragile compared to the foam. So it is made up of a fibril matrix. It's completely a cellulose type, but it is also this metal also you can make a graphene out of this one when you burn it. So that can be used for various applications. So this is a very close resemblance bio-inspired nanostructures both are. But when you use your fixers in the bone, there are many failures which are recent. There's a report in a book. It's analyzed due to so the main is it is due to your wear as well as in corrosion and poor in osteointegration and infection, and also in fracture and surgical procedure manufacturing. They look at the probability, which is the one giving the major impact within 5 years. If that means that is only due to the infection. The point is, when you develop a material, first you have to make sure that you have a right component to avoid or to inhibit or eradicate the infection. Then we will take up the structure of the material. It is flexible and the material should not degrade. There's a loosening with that. And then mechanical property, fractures, and then wear. If you address 4 these issues when you develop a material, that will avoid the patient go for revision of surgery. That's what given in the Bible of the development work. So that is what we have to look into it carefully. So, but when you use a material for titanium, when you use a material for titanium implants, they are using coating. The coating most of the time metal oxide. All the metal oxide are not functionalities are not good. That is why what we have developed is a titanium incorporated bioglass, and we have developed the material, and also we developed the thin film. We evaluated this material. We found that even 5% of titanium in a bioglass, diaglass, or other way around, the titanium enhance the mechanical property, or the property of a titanium antibiotic enhance the bioglass. That we have established, and we have systematically evaluated for osteoblast cell line, and cell proliferation was very good, and that we have published in few years back in the Journal of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology, and we developed the thin film using spray pyrolysis coating. That we have showed that this material can be become hardness increased as well as compatibility increase, and surface nephrosis is a very good control, and hardness is moved to 12 gigapascal, which is an ideally promising for hard tissue coating as well as application. So that we have demonstrated this one. Similarly, as I mentioned, we have also developed a bioglass in one-dimensional structure, which is 1D, which vary the compo. We just modify the process condition, then we make it into bars of bioglass, bars of bio-nano. We call it bio-nano rod. That rod we integrated with the graphene. Graphene we fabricated with a very simple approach. Then we evaluated for coating purpose with the help of IGC or Kalpakam. They have given the project to use this material for for corrosion coating. We have developed this material, and we found that in a highly result. Then we use this material to develop the coating on a titanium implant. The one of the potential coating method to develop thin film on a metal is none other than EPD, electrophoric deposition. It is this material can be extended to any size of material, so that is an advantage. So that we have used, and it is possible. We have also looked at the antibody of the material, and also Again, that is that either the material should be hydrophobic and hydrophilic. Hydrophobic means the corrosion will be less. Hydrophilic means cell adhesion will be good. So in order to avoid the biofilm growth, it can be hydrophobic. For other adhesion, for drug delivery, other adhesion can be hydrophilic. But the beauty is the ratio, the morphology, the composition, the preparation condition, and played a long role, and you can engineer and you can change the basic mechanical properties of the material. Similarly, in order to enhance further, what we have developed is we can take a titanium planet, then we have grown a titanium tubes on top of it by EPD method, then we can grow a graphene layer that even further enhance the property of the metal. The resistance increase drastically, and I'll show you some of the final data. So drastically, and then right now we have given a proposal for based on this, because this can be extended for water pipings. We basically we use heavy water and hot water in the to cool the nuclear reactors. They get corroded. Avoid the corrosion. Avoid the corrosion. They are using a corrosion resistant material should be coated on their thing. So we have demonstrated that it is possible to go this layer even 1 feet into 1 feet. This is a facility that we are developing now with the help of IGCAR to this one. Recently we filed a patent on this. A very simple experiment that we have developed. The another one to develop the it is one of the development in is a scaffold. Scaffold, when you talk about scaffold, whatever the solvent that we are using to prepare these are playing the major role. So it's whenever we start a development, we have to look at each and every factor. So that obviously there is a challenge everywhere. If you analyze it systematically, that can be published. This is one of the work what we have done earlier. So bioglass, when you talk about scaffold, the scaffold should be porosity should be there, proper interconductivity will be there, surface area will be there. It should be good kind of it says mechanically it should be strong, and it must be tuned appropriately with the growth factor of the tissues. So that is what the need of bioglass monoliths. So what we have developed is we have developed by very phase separation method. That is one of the very simple approach in the wet chemical method. Then we use a different solvent. We found that when you change the solvent changes the porosity. The charges change the porous structure. So that will we carefully look into analyze the study. We found that the nucleation growth we use as a sphenoidal decomposition. That is one of the common mechanism that you can observe in this high temperature growth material that we have studied, and we found that your one of the combination of ethanol and water it gives a better results. Hardness increased, as well as your if you look at your and similarly your strain is relatively good, and particle morphology is good, and cell adhesion and cell proliferation and HCA growth, and that is beautifully enhanced. And we found that porosity, pore size, and the mechanical property, and we are able to tune, and it is within 14 days. This one give all the properties and very close to bone modulus. Is above bone modulus 91 megapascal. It can be used for in vivo studies. So that is what we are doing it. These are the some of the scaffolds that we have developed, and we published this work in two of the journals. One in PCCP and another one is our. So similarly, work on fibers. Fibers, one-dimensional fibers, you can make the wound healing pads. That is our ultimate goal. That is one of the ongoing project. So that we have developed using the electrospinning approach. We have developed a fiber. When you develop a fiber, depend upon the solvent and the solvent ratio and your process condition. We have seen that some of the fibers are hollow, some of the fibers are solid. So it is possible to vary. So that way each and every parameter affect the material and the material properties. So that is we have to look at, we have studied that one. This material used to be, we also explained why the phase formation in this one. And again, this is material science mechanisms that we have published. And then later we also studied, we found that cell proliferation, mineralization is very high. And some of them are combined structure form, and you can see all these of SCA layers are beautifully grown. Compared to thin film, one-dimensional structures are highly reactive and can give more amount of SCA layer formation. We also this material for this tubes can be used for drug delivery. We have studied two drugs ibuprofen as well as and ciprofloxacin that shows that highly suitable for drug delivery and wound healing application. Right now we got an ICMR RA project when we present this one in this one. So one of the student is Manjibas is working. The last part of the work, next 5 minutes, is biocomposites for ophthalmology. These materials also used for some of the part your regeneration in eye. So this is these are the some of the work already done with this material, because they use the oral wall defect in the bone near to the eye. They have used this one, but later they found that they also made even the artificial eye development. They used polymer membrane for your corneal membrane. Later they coated, they used PG coating for initially for to avoid infection, to establish interface, and later found that this material can be used for corneal application. There's one of the major in Austin keratoconus they have used to develop. They are using this material here, the thin one, the thin film of silica initially, and then polymer they use. And we have developed a material in our lab. One of the memories high, because the transparency is the key here. When we use a 55% silica, we found that transparency is very close to our corneal membrane. Then we systematically studied this material in a material approach, and we developed initially we developed a scaffold like this, and then we presented in DPT. DPT gave a project to work with Vision Eye Care, and then we have developed a corneal membrane with a special mold. This is one of the ongoing project. And then right now we are evaluating the mechanical property and then drug delivery efficiency, and with a different application. This is recently we filed a patent with our patent office. So this is the one which is a different size, different thickness. The transparency is very close to 90, and we have found this earlier. And also our Shankar Nethraya, there is a research lab with Professor Krishna Kumar. She evaluated the cytocompatibility, cell viability is very good, and your other addition and material is they qualify get used for next stage. So they also studied the degradation behavior with artificial tear fluid. Yes, since this material is degrading, it can be useful for corneal conversion, or if you arrest the degradation, it can be used for lens as well as for drug delivery. So that is our work, ongoing work. And similarly, we also work material for osteosarcoma. That is, one of the students who developed an iron oxide from sand. Then he combined with a core shell structure. Then they have developed this for magnetic property. It's very high magnetic. Magnetization is good, and ferromagnetic. This material can be used for hyperthermia. So with this, I think. And in our work, what we have developed, we have used many material for many work on to develop our materials to understand the material science of bioglass, and with the different concentration of different dopant substitutions. And we developed the hydrogel and thin film and the scaffold. And for orthopedic purpose, we developed both the material bioglass and this one. So this one, so titanium and aluminum and zirconium in thin film form and bulk form. And we have developed a material for drug delivery. And see, each one has it will take a few years to develop. And we used it for blood clotting, hemostasis, and hyperthermia, and the corneal membrane. This is the work what we have done, and this is almost it must take 10 years from the material understanding. And this is our the roadmap, and where we just the road where we use, and many work we have done, and this is a development. And finally, this is our product we have developed 4 different products from out of it. So it's this basically to understand the material and the functionality and take it to the next level. So I think we are in the next level now. The level we are moving towards the dentistry, and we have published quite a lot of papers in many reputed journals. And this is our team. And this is whatever I have presented. It is not my work; it is my students' work. And Durga is the one who started the work with me and the biomaterial. And she is my collaborator, and is Dr. Ashok, who did the thin film coating with IGCAR, is in Slovakia. And Radha worked on hydroxyapatite, and she's an ICMR research associate now. And Manjibasni joined our group and is working on diabetic wound healing. Bhargavi is the one on hydrogel. And Ilakya and Vijay Kumar is working on our BIRAC project to develop a hemostat. And Riju is a corneal membrane. Chitra is a material scientist, and we worked on many different material, including TCP and all. and most of them are completely, I mean, some of them, this team is presently working, and Priya is worked on the thin PL membrane, and she's our Dr. Ramya Ramadas, one of the collaborators from SRM Dental, and these are our external collaborators, Shankar Netralia and SRM Dental, and without their help, definitely this work will not go to the next stage. Next stage, and then with this I also thank the funding agencies, a major funding from DPT and BIRAC and DAE, IUC, CSR, and Data Memorial Fellowship for our student and ICMR fellowships. With this I like to thank you for the opportunity given to me, and we have 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe if you have any questions, I will be able to, I'll try my best to answer the questions. Over to the organizer.
Yes, sir. Thank you for pouring so much information, sir. I think we need 2-3 days to listen to your talk.
Yeah.
Highly informative, wonderful talk. So I think most of the audience might have enjoyed it. Now it is open for discussion. I think you have done so much work, sir.
No,
It's very interesting also. Especially bioglass is very much interesting. I think many students might have got some information from your talk, so they can do some research in this aspect also.
Sure.
So now it is open for discussion. So I request the students as well as other participants, you can interact with the professor. So if you have any doubts and queries, kindly raise, and also you can ask questions also. Or you can use the chat box also. If there is any question, please write on that.
Why no doubt? That means you didn't understand anything. No doubt?
I think more than 125 participants.
Participant, you feel free, you can ask your question. The chat box.
Yeah, you can make use of the chat box. You can write it there also.
Sir, I have one basic question.
Sure, sir.
So the materials when we try to use for like the bones and other things, what is the quick way to check the biocompatibility? So,
yeah, that is what I showed here. The first biocompatibility you can check in normally, the quick check in our lab, what we use, and we take our own blood. So make sure that, and then you can do the hemolysis first. Hemolysis. So whether it is your lysis is there or not, and then clotting is there or not. So that will give you an idea. It should be 0.3%. So that's what I want. That's a quick check that you can do. And then you can check all other, subsequently you can do even the advanced one, hemolysis, they will do it in the SRM, a different way. But it's a quick check you can do it. As a material scientist, for us, it's relatively very easy. Yeah, but you need ethical clearance for that also.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, sir. It was this is Srinivasan from Mechatronics Department, SRM IST.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful session, sir. Thank you so much. Just I have an offline, discussions on that. So, what are the materials you have developed based on nanomaterials? Can we do 3D printing to make that shape of bone or whatever stuff?
Yeah. It is there. It is being done. It's being done. The problem is 3D printing is ready, and then there are some materials are ready. But whatever the material that you are feeding in as a filament for your 3D, that material to be developed properly. So always you have several hindrances in the basic materials properties. There you have to optimize. Now we can actually even incorporating the cell in the 3D. If you look at Alto Bocconcini, he is our collaborator from the materials letters chief editor, and he is working on this material for more than 20 years, and he is still working in the same material. And right now he is developing 3D printing with the cells. Integrating the cell during the printing itself. That kind of development is already being done. It is being done. So, but we are right now, whatever the material developed in our lab, he is using it now for his application.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your nice question.
Sir, good morning, sir. Tanuja from Sairam Engineering College.
Okay.
Sir, the lifetime of the material, how it can be checked, sir?
See, the lifetime, this depends where you use, what is the purpose. In the most of the work, what I have shown here, this material used for regeneration. If you look at it carefully, that materials, you are going to regenerate your damaged tissues. That means the material will be converted into HCl layer form, will be incorporated in your tissue, hard tissues like bone and teeth. So that means there is no question of the lifetime. The lifetime question comes in your bioglass when you used as a to support hard tissue as a material assets. For example, sometimes you make even a metal bioglass composite you can make. There the lifetime depend upon the place where you place it. It depends, because the filling material, it is not going to react. But whereas when you put in your hip and knee, there is a mechanical movement. It is there. There you have to take care. There you have to take care of the the mechanical property of the material. It is very close to the membrane or the tissues, that is very it is there. So you have to closely match with that. And then you have to use the right polymer also. That organic part is also very key, and the ratio is then very similarly. And also when you come to the dentistry, in the dentistry, it is again, for example, in the enamel protection layer, we can talk about the lifetime. It is again, what kind of pressure that you are giving during your biting and all, it is there. But for that, the layer grown on your teeth, it should establish a beautiful, good interface. That's why we say that the material should be compatible not only with the hard tissue and soft tissue, and mechanically it should be very strong. But we have developed it, and I cannot say, because only we developed few years before, and it to be commercialized, then we can evaluate for in the human for a very long time, then we can choose. But it is already established, but we don't know what this Colgate, I mean, not the Colgate, this paste people are using a scaffold, that companies are, how they are using, and what kind of structure, we don't know. It is an unknown, I mean, very gray for researchers. That is why we are, maybe I don't know whether we are redeveloping it, or we are putting more energy and fund in the research to reinvent the thing. But that is because they cannot disclose. If they disclose, they will lose the market. But as academicians, we have to establish it on the mechanisms. So then we can think about the lifetime. But we are, and I can say that is the one of the major factors that you can address in the second stage.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
And there are a few questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
One question is, can we have PG or any other to heart and kidney tissues? Yes, you can. They right now they are using for skin. On the heart, there is a recent paper, one of the recent articles published in Nature. They are showing heart tissue also can be done, but it is the exploratory phase. But you have to see the functionality of the material that use it for heart. That is very important. There is another question from Dr. Srinivasa Tamba. Sir, can you throw a light on certification and the commercialization of the product available? Yes, sir. In fact, I have slide, I believe. Let me see whether I have that slide here. And of course, but I can answer the question. Yes, certification is very important. For that, in our side, you have to go, first you have to get all the ethical clearance, and you have to go up to preclinical stage. Even preclinical stage, you have quite a lot of certification. That is, whoever you develop the material, it is better to go through the product development through BIRAC. BIRAC is almost a sister concern of a DPT, where they will only give funding for product development, but they will tell you what are the certification. In fact, they will take care, where up to FDA clearance, they will take care of everything. There are quite a lot of certification, and even for from your to use it animal, and then later you can for yes, all the required certification we have to get in the required ministry. But if you get it from government project, for one, they will do everything as the researchers. Yes. And the commercialization, you have to get all the license and make sure that you file your IPs and the patents, and then trade secret, and there are quite a lot of classifications are there. That first you protect your work when you go for a product. But whatever I present is a basic nature. Even if you use the same condition, you may not be able to reproduce, because you are using in your lab and chemistry is different. precursors are different from different company, different purity level. Next. Any other questions, sir?
Questions? Is there any other questions from the students? If there is no students, we profoundly thank our speaker,
Thank
Dr.
you, sir.
Balakumar sir, for giving the wonderful and fruitful talk. I think I think most of our students might have enjoyed his talk, and then they can also work on that area also. Those are his physics, but he has been working in almost all areas of research. So thank you so much, sir, for accepting our request and giving the talk on biomaterials. So again, so we will extend our talk on behalf of the organizing committee on my own behalf. I wholeheartedly thank you for giving the wonderful talk by insightful information for our students of especially physics and nanotechnology students. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Over
for the
to
opportunity.
Dr. Senthil. Senthil, you want to say something to?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the excellent talk. I also thank Professor Napoleon for chairing this session.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think
Yes, sir.
there's one question they're asking about sulfur and strontium. Will it is a biotoxicity? Again, biotoxicity is a question for sulfur. The strontium actually no. If it is more than 20%, yes. Sulfur, you have to very carefully you have to use it. How it is chemically bonded? What is the ratio? So again, this for the substitution is less than 5%. There is no issue. But more than so with this, I can thank all of you, and I will formally I'll close my session. Thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
all.
sir. Thank you,
Sir.
Sir, 1 minute, sir.
Yeah.
So this time we have revised the fellowship of the PhD students from 16,000 to 25,000. I think you might have received that flyer.
Yeah.
Kindly encourage best students to apply for the PhD, sir.
Sure, sir.
The main reason that we are looking for the good students for a PhD, so that's the reason we have revised the fellowship of 25,000 per month for 3 years, sir. So we expect your help and support like before.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Leave you. I leave.
Participants, we'll have a short break. We will again meet at 11:10. I repeat, we will meet at 11:10 for the next session. Thank you, sir. Napoleon, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.